Celebrity Alert, an interview with American actress and singer Linda Purl, only on Matters of the Heart with John Redmond. Stay tuned. It's so easy to say I love you, but somehow your affection sends me on an international pilgrimage of love, a journey that allows me to love you in Swahili, French, je t'aime, Spanish, te amo, German, ich liebe dich, Italian, ti amo, Swedish, ja älskar dig, Russian, ja lublю тебя, Chinese, wu ani, Irish, Takla Ogamet. And oh yes, Greek. Sekamo. This is Matters of the Heart, and I am your host, John Redmond, and boy, do we have a super exciting show for you today. We have an interview with Hollywood celebrity Linda Purl, and oh my goodness, it's an interview you don't want to miss.
Aren't selfies fun? I love using them for my profile pictures. Look at me, I'm in the bathroom. I'm at the beach. I'm at the zoo. But I'm a kid. Are you? Shouldn't you have a professional portrait for your business profile? You need to call Jay Billups, 719-299-0879, jayBillupsphotography.com, JAYBILLUPS, photography.com, 719-299-0879.
Honey, what are you doing on the ladder?
This light keeps burning out, and I'm going to try to fix it. I think it's the wire.
Just call American Electrician. They have the same day service. 719-520-9999.
Ah!
See? I told you to call American Electrician.
What's the number?
American Electrician. 719-520-9999.
I tried to fly with broken wings, by living in shattered dreams. Jagged pieces everywhere. Dream again, do I dare? Trying to fly with broken wings. I'm picking up the pieces with pain, blinded eyes. My demise was no surprise. Will the sun ever shine again? Will I lose or will I win? Trying to fly with broken wings. My world is crumbling all around. Broken spirits have left me on the ground. The very thing that I prayed for, not to come to pass. It has come at last. At last, I'm trying to fly with broken wings, by living in shattered dreams. Jagged pieces everywhere. Dream again, do I dare? Trying to fly with broken wings. I'm picking up the pieces through pain, blinded eyes. My demise was no surprise.
true that weeping endures only at night, this has been the longest, coldest night, coldest night. And if it's true, it's darkest just before the dawn. Will the dawn ever come?
Will the dawn ever come? But that's when I found you. My Adonai. You gave me a brand new song to sing, because I found healing in your wings, yeah. No more to fly, no more to fly. Oh, no more to fly with broken wings. No more living in shattered dreams. I refuse, I refuse. Jagged pieces have disappeared. My vision has become so clear. No more to fly with broken wings. I'm soaring higher than I did before. I can see over the mountains and so much more. Oh yeah. Now the most important thing, I'm in the shadow of your wings. No one to fly with broken wings. Oh no. My Lord. Forgetting the things behind me, I gotta reach for things ahead. I gotta press on toward the mark for the prize of the high calling in Jesus Christ. I'm tired of the hurt, so tired of the pain, living in my past failures, time and time again, and all of my regrets. Lord, help me to forget, so I can run on and press on and press on and run on. I'm talking about running and not be weary, walking and never falling.
Linda, can you say hello to the listening audience?
Well, I'm so happy to share your audience, John. And, John, you're the kind of guy, someone says, let's go, and everybody jumps. So I'm happy to be here.
Okay, I'm not supposed to cry this early in the actual interview, but I think it's about to start. All right, so Linda Purl, if you all have not known her name, I know you know her face. She has been in so many films, in television, in theater, and released records, and she is just super talented. Some of the movies that she's been in, and pop in here anytime you want to, Linda. Crazy Mama,
Okay.
Mighty Joe Young, The Perfect Tenant, Visiting Hours, Frozen Impact, Little Ladies of the Night, some sitcoms, Happy Days, and this is one I didn't even know about. And when I found out that you were in this one, I just totally fell in love with you. You were in one of my favorite shows, which was called True Blood.
Oh, yeah. That was an interesting show. I was not really, of course, I was aware of the show, but I hadn't watched it. And once I did a recurring role on that, I played Barbara Pelt. And I was so impressed with everyone, with the actors, with the attention to detail, with the superb writing. And I sort of had, I almost think of my career in a couple of different chapters. There was sort of before I became a mom, where I did a lot of movies of the week and a few series, Happy Days and Matlock among them. And then I was, busy raising my son for a few years. And then I sort of went back to work and got to do recurring role on Homeland and The Office and True Blood, which, they're very different shows, but really fun to be working with, I would say, a more modern sensibility. The writing is sharper. The technology has changed. All the equipment is much lighter, less intrusive into the process of acting. So it's, like all the arts, they keep evolving. So it's been fun to be a part of it for this many decades. I am now 101, and just see, as a journeyman actor, to see how things evolve.
Things have definitely evolved. And have you seen yourself evolve as an actress through this time period?
Oh, for sure. I think that's one of the great joys of being an actress and a singer, is that you never, ever, ever run out of things to learn. It's always a challenge. Each time you sit down with a script, each time you take on a new song, it's a discipline. At some level, it's a spiritual discipline, in the sense of you really work to get as much of yourself out of the way and just let whatever information, whatever theme come through you as best you can. And yeah, I love the team work aspect of it. You, especially as an actress, you get to work with designers and technicians and other actors, and you're very, very interdependent. And there's not room for ego there if you're going to do your best work. So it's very humbling, and you prove yourself anew every time you step onto a stage, or anytime you're in front of a camera. And so I've found the most wonderful people in the business, and it's provided me an education on so many levels.
Always evolving, always learning. If that's what it sounds like. Let's go to your happy days. Let's go to happy days. And tell us, how did you get that role of Fonzie's? And this is the funny part. Everyone knew you as Fonzie's girlfriend, but you were Richie's girlfriend first.
Originally, I was. And, I tell you, it's poignant to be talking about this, only because Gary Marshall recently died, and he was a great man. He was a padrón. He was, an avuncular guy with big, broad shoulders, and very, very family orientated. And he brought that onto any set that he ran. Happy Days among them. And yeah, I did. I guess it was the second season of Happy Days, when it was still very much Ron Howard's show. I mean, Richie Cunningham was sort of the lead character. It's built around him. Right. And so I was brought in as Richie Cunningham's girlfriend as a recurring role. And so it was Gary Marshall who gave me my first job in Hollywood, and it was so much fun. And, it was early days for Happy Days, and they were sort of, gosh, are we going to get picked up for another season? And it was still kind of nervous-making, and it was before the big rise of the success of the show. I mean, it was growing, to be sure. But as the show evolved now into the third season, it was really Fonzie's character that the audience was responding to. And so they kind of diminished Ron Howard's character, and which meant that supporting roles around him just vanished, including mine. So I was out of a job. And then years later, they decided that the Fonz should have a fiance, and there was a casting notice that was sent out, and they said that they were looking, right hand to God, they were looking for a Linda Purl type. So my agent called in and said, well, could you see Linda for the role? And I auditioned, and I ended up getting the role. And, it was very nice of Gary to bring me back then as a different character on the same show.
Wow.
But it was like homecoming, because a lot of the cast members have remained friends through the years. So it was a very special time to be able to go back and do that show. Well, there's one thing, and this is really a story about Gary. He was a brilliant producer, and we shot the whole of Happy Days, once it switched to being 3-camera, was shot on one particular soundstage on the Paramount lot. Now, Happy Days was such a huge success that it basically rebuilt the lot. The streets got paved, all the buildings got painted, there was a new commissary, a new cafeteria. It was great. Wow. What never changed was on our soundstage, Gary refused to put in a second bathroom. It's awfully graphic, but there was one very nice bathroom, but one bathroom for everyone. It didn't matter if you were an extra, a crew person, Henry, Marion, and you know, it just kind of kept if there was going to be any flare up of any ego, there just wasn't room for that. And also, he had a softball team. He was a baseball fan, and he created a softball team. And everybody played, no matter how bad a player, and I know because I'm a bad player, you would put on these silly little shorts and you'd go out and we played, and we went around the world for USO tours, and Henry also was a terrible player, and he looked so silly with his little knobby knees, you know. We would get out there and play, and you know, there's nothing like sports, right, to level the field. I mean, it'll humble you, no matter how good of a player you are. So again, it was a very holistic approach to work. And that, I think, really imbued the show with a kind of love and texture that it might not have had if those qualities weren't so authentically cultivated by Gary on the set, on the life of the set.
Linda Purl sharing the bathroom, that one bathroom, because Gary Marshall refuses to put in another bathroom, but it seemed like there was a purpose, there was a method to his madness in order to keep everybody as a family, keep everyone humble on the same page and on the same tier and the same level. That's wow, that's beautiful.
Well, you know, when I was growing up, I grew up in Japan, and we had this very funky, big, rambly old house, but there was one bathroom upstairs, and not to put too fine a point on it, but things would happen, and we would end up brushing our teeth together, and just those conversations. It's like cutting carrots in the kitchen. You know, conversations don't necessarily happen, certainly between parents and kids, when you say, "How was your day?" I mean, right. I used to get fine or a grunt or something, but when you're just there doing your life and you run into each other in the dailiness of life, that's, I find, when the conversations happen. I'm rambling here, but I don't believe in quality time replacing quantity time. I actually think it is about quantity. I think it's about being in the same room, rubbing elbows, and that's when the casual conversations bubble up and you learn more about each other, and suddenly you're into a deeper conversation.
So small talk leads to deeper conversation by quantity. So you're saying quantity pretty much leads to quality? Yeah,
well said, John. Yeah, I really do believe that. I mean, being a woman who when I grew up, it was the feminists were just sort of moving into a presence, and gosh, they did so much good work, but there was sort of this thing of, like any revolution, it kind of swung, I think, maybe a little bit too far to say, well, no, equal everything, and we have to have our career, and never mind, you can just squeeze out a child and then just have quality time with them, and I think then by the time I became a mom, that revolution had kind of swung back to, I think, what is a better balance now, where you make time for your family and you make time for your work, and but I don't think sort of pejoritizing family actually works. At least that was very much my experience.
I'm thinking that's a great lead into our next topic, because you've been mentioning family, and you've been mentioning you grew up in Japan. Give us some background on growing up, and do you have brothers and sisters, and mom or father, father? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I have a sister, and my parents have both died in the last few years after long and great lives. My folks their first love was very much in the theater, but my dad was an engineer, a depression baby, and so they sort of took the sensible route. And he had been in Japan under General MacArthur in the occupation days immediately after the war, came back to the States, and went to work for Union Carbide, a chemical corporation. And so, but I think because he'd had that experience in Japan, and my parents both spoke the language at that point, they were sent to Japan by Carbide to build a plant. And it was a very exciting time. It was just at the tippy top of the early 60s, and Japan was in this moment of huge inhale of working hard to understand the West and modernize rapidly, and they're a culture-centric nation, and so not only were big, industrial companies coming in there to build cars and all sorts of goods, plastic, polyethylene was what my dad's plant built, but they also did an incredible job of bringing artists over. They had, they were not really in the Cold War, so they had the Bolshoi Theater from Russia and the Moscow Symphony, and along with the Royal Shakespeare Company would come over from England, and they were just students, of other cultures through their culture, so through the literature, through the dance, through the art. And it was a very stimulating time in Japan because they were in this moment of enormous inhale. So it was a global city, sort of before the world went global, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So that was the atmosphere, the incredibly privileged atmosphere, I have to say, that I took very much for granted as I was growing up, because you do. But it was a great experience, and also it was funny because my parents were there for 30 years altogether. So, they would come back to the States periodically, but they missed the 60s and the 70s. I mean, they weren't living here. I mean, they'd hear about it, read about it, but it was, unless you're in it, you just can't imagine what's actually going on. So when my parents did move back to the States, they were in this moment of, culture shock. I mean, they missed all the Vietnam War protests, and it was a huge adjustment for them when
Yes, culture shock. Well said.
Yeah. And for me too, to some extent. But
of course. And speaking about like culture shock and things of that nature, when you say in the 60s and 70s, they totally missed it because they were you all were in Japan at that time.
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah.
So now, bringing you back up, just I guess just another lead in to current events now, and we're talking about culture shock, and we're talking about, you turn on the TV now, and the biggest thing we're talking about in current events is you see the Black Lives Matter, and then you see also the presidential debates. And so what is going through your mind after, coming back from Japan and you seeing the culture shock, as you mentioned, and when you came back from Japan back to the States, and now you're here in 2016 and you see, all the violence, and race wars, and then you see the Republicans against the Democrats, and then the politics and the political atmosphere that's going on right now. Like, what is your take on all this now? What do you feel?
Oh my gosh, John.
Hello, this is Sylvia Tessiri. I want you to have my latest 6-month full-page wall calendar.
Caliente.
From the bedroom to the beach. See my never-before published images in color and classic black and white.
Ay, Dios mío.
Just go to my website calendar.sylviatessiri.com and get yours so I can see you every day.
Get yours today at sylviataziri.com. Sylvia, Taziri.com.
This is Linda Purl, and I love listening to JBCM Radio. emotions. I suspect we all do. I mean, I get very frustrated, very angry. I get incredibly sad. I mean, the anger part, I would say, comes in, well, certainly with the politics. I mean, the divisiveness, the disgrace of the level of conversation that's going on is just, it's humiliating. It's disheartening. You know, oh my gosh, I can't even speak in whole sentences about it. It just makes me so angry and scared because these are our leaders. I mean, so that's very frustrating. And I think that, too, even after the election is over, I mean, my hope is that we can find the high ground again. My fear, honestly, is that we've opened up a new level of low, and I just hope that can be healed, you know, and sort of flushed out, and we can find high ground again. In terms of the racial tension, as a white woman, I was ignorant. I didn't know. I really didn't. I didn't know that, you know, I have not walked in the shoes of a young African-American man, and I feel now to some very, very, very minor degree I have just by watching the horror that unfolds. Of course, my son is 21, and so we've always had young African-American buddies, you know, I mean, so, but I didn't know what their mothers were going through. I didn't know. We've never talked about it. Wow. So that's been eye-opening to me. I know some people say that since Obama became president, and I'm a fan of President Obama's and Mrs. Obama's, but that some people feel that this relationship got worse since they came in to office. I don't think that's the case. I wouldn't phrase it that way. I feel like there was a big conversation about race and prejudice that we as a nation have never properly had, and that all of this, much like pouring a fresh water into a pitcher of sedentary, water, things get stirred up. So I think, at some level, I choose to hope that now that we're in the conversation, as painful as it is, that ultimately it's leading to some real healing. I mean, people are talking to each other. You and I are talking about this. I don't know that, 2 years ago we might not have.
Right. Agreed.
Largely because of my ignorance. But for instance, I have a friend in LA, and I was talking to the other day, who for years worked at the district attorney's office. And I said, well, what about this police brutality? Is it just now, or has it always been going on? And he laughed and he said, no, it's always been going on. He said, this is astonishing. He said, LA cops would, just for sport, quote unquote, would pick up a young man who was living in the neighborhood of the Crips and just drop him off in the neighborhood of the Bloods. I mean,
what?
That's medieval. And he said this kind of stuff would go on. And but this was like 15 years ago this was going on. And the bad things happen. And I mean, this is astonishing. Why weren't we talking about that 15 years ago? I mean, the shame of it is that, I mean, I'm sure there's so many spectacular men and women on the police force.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely,
it just takes those few, and a culture of fear. I mean, one of the guy that I don't remember his name, but the Dallas police chief.
Yes.
Wow, he is something. I would vote for him for president in a heartbeat.
Yes.
There was a man of such character and such strength and principle and, compassion, and he's lived it. I mean, his own son was killed at the hands of police, and, and he's a police officer. So clearly there are saintly people who are working and sacrificing and, courageous in the police force, but there's also clearly an element that's just evil, terrifying.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, in terms of Black Lives Matter, I think, again, I'm sort of rambling here, but I've never felt that excludes anybody. I think that's an important statement to make, just to draw awareness, and that I don't agree with those people that feel that excludes anyone. But, this is something that must be addressed. And as a mother, I cannot imagine the pain and fear that the mothers and fathers, of course, are going through, the terror that they live with. And that this is where we are in our country in 2016 is pathetic.
Well said. Well said. We are talking to American actress and singer Linda Purl right here at JBCM Radio. She's not just showing us her artistry, but she's showing us her heart and giving us her story about a wonderful story about the Hollywood scene and how she entered acting and all the movies she's been playing in, but also what she's thinking about current events. And soon we're going to ask her about her passion and we're going to find out the true humanitarian side of Linda Purl. We'll be right back.
This is Linda Purl, and I hope you, like me, keep listening to JBCM Radio.
All right, we are back with American actress and singer and true talent, raw talent, and humanitarian, the one and only Linda Purl. And we are actually talking to her and getting to know who not just the actress is, but who the woman is. And she actually has a passion. Linda, you have a passion for something that's out there. And I want you to just tell our listeners what your passion is right now.
Well, thank you so much for asking, John. I'm sure all of us are agitated by any number of things in the news, and then you tend, I suppose we all do, to look at life through our own lenses and what chapter of life we're in. The chapter of life that I'm in right now is empty nest. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Why didn't they tell us that empty nest is just awful when your kids leave? It's just so painful. But, of course, if they stayed at home, they'd drive you nuts, but that's another story. But, yeah, my son at 21 and his buddies are just in that moment, that passage, of going out into the world. And it's a exciting time. It's a scary time. I've seen these boys all sort of build their values together, talk about their dreams, and now off they are into the world. And watching them, I would say that some of the boys are, the world is saying yes to them. They're saying, yeah, you're on the right track. School is going well, or whatever. They're getting the jobs that they were after. And for other boys, it's been not so much. They've kind of gone, yay, out into the world, and they've hit smack up against a brick wall. Now, for anybody over the age of 30 or 25, that everybody is going to have those cycles. But to see it happen in the life of a young person is, I think, can, especially now, make them a little vulnerable. And so I'm leading up to what ultimately, John, what your question was, but I would say that I don't really know how else to describe it, but there's sort of several pieces of a pie, and so that's one of them. Another one was, this is years ago when Columbine happened, and I happened to read a story. It was an interview with one of the young kids who survived. And he happened to be in the hallway at the entrance to the school when the baddies came in, with their guns. And one of the boys said to this survivor, "Get out." And he heard it, he got it, and he left. And the interviewer said, "Well, why were you spared?" And the survivor said, "I don't know, maybe it's because I used to say hello to this child."
Wow.
The murderer. And that was just, I'll never forget it. It's chilling every time I think of it, because what that means to me is that there was a way in. There was a way to have reached this child, to make him feel included. And what if somebody else had said hello to the other boy? I mean, somewhere along the line, they became disenfranchised from their own community. And I mean, we know that, love is like water. It can go through rocks, for heaven's sake. So if there had been some love somewhere, some hint of it that he had felt, he wouldn't have been so excluded. I like to think. Anyway, so that's another, I guess, piece of the pie. And then I asked my son a few months ago, I knew that the answer would be no, but I just thought, I'll just ask it. And I said, "Do you know anyone who's been contacted by ISIS?" And what he said was, "Oh yeah." Like, duh, Mom, what a silly question.
Wow.
So
Just like that.
And these ISIS seems to be very aggressively marketing, and it's just a numbers game. They just reach out, randomly to people through emails. My son has a girlfriend who had received a package anonymously. She opened it at her home, and it was a little porcelain bowl with Islamic script on it, and with a beautiful letter saying, "Come on, join us. It's great, and we can give your life meaning," and all the. Well, of course, she gave it to her parents. Her parents gave it to the FBI, and they were immediately following some sort of protocol. But they said, it's totally random. It has nothing to do with anything you've done or should have done or should not have done. And so this is really scary, and at some point they will be able to. One of these emails will land in the right inbox, and they will reach someone. And we know that cells are being developed. And so I would like, this is just an embryonic idea at this point, but to just reach out in any way I can, and hopefully it'll become a more formal effort, but to supporting any effort that aggressively reaches out with opportunities to potentially disenfranchised youth.
Yes.
I mean, how disheartening as a young person to be suddenly out in the world and have no way to get a job, to find an opportunity, to, that's a real state of despair. I happen to be aware of this particular passage for particularly boys, just because I have a son, say from the age of 16 to maybe 25, that they seem very vulnerable at that point. And, I don't think it's not about keeping people out. It's not building a wall isn't going to do anything. It's ideas. We have a society now where ideas travel, at the speed of light. And so we need to build, I don't think you can stop those, the ISIS ideas from coming in, but what you can do is aggressively provide an alternative.
An alternative, absolutely.
So, light can extinguish dark. Dark has never extinguished light. But if you can hold a light out, it can. If we can get there first with opportunities, thoughts, and I think it's more than just having doors open and saying, like, the Boys and Girls Club or all the wonderful athletic programs or arts programs or what have you, saying, come and join us in the church programs. It's more than that. I think it's almost an evangelical pose, posture to take, effort to take to say, come, create your own business, and so that you're doing something. You're so busy doing good work and interesting work, expressing yourself, that there's no time to get overtaken by something as dark as ISIS or Al Qaeda or any kind of cell outfit.
Well said. And my takeaway from what you just said, and it's just like ringing in my spirit and in my mind. You said there's no way that darkness can quench light. Light always quenches the darkness, and that is nothing but truth. Whenever you turn on any light, the darkness has to flee.
Yeah.
So that's and that's it. An alternative for these young people, these disenfranchised youth, and again, this is one of Linda Purl's passion is to find these young people and to get these young people a healthy alternative, so they won't align with the wrong people and the wrong organizations. Linda Purl is truly an artist with a heart. And when we come back, we're going to talk about not just the artistry of Linda Purl, but y'all, Linda Purl can sing. And we're going to talk a little more about that when we come back. Matters of the Heart with John Redmond. Stay tuned.
Aren't selfies fun? I love using them for my profile pictures. Look at me, I'm in the bathroom. I'm at the beach. I'm at the zoo. But I'm a kid. Are you? Shouldn't you have a professional portrait for your business profile? You need to call Jay Billups, 719-299-0879, jayBillupsphotography.com, JAYBILLUPS, photography.com, 719-299-0879.
We are back with American actress, humanitarian, and singer Linda Purl. Linda, when did you start singing?
Well, let's see. As a kid, I got to do musicals, and my parents always had music on. We had a turntable. That was how it's back in the day. And the summers in Japan were very, very humid, and the only way to get relief from the heat was to have music on. Somehow that was distracting enough so my parents played a lot of jazz, some Broadway tunes, but a lot of jazz. And for the Great American Songbook, and they would have Rosemary Clooney or Ella Fitzgerald or Dinah Shore or Lena Horne. I mean, somebody was always singing in the house over the turntable. So it was sort of the soundtrack of my childhood, and had made an impact.
You just came out with a brand new album. Can you tell us the name of this album and how it came about?
Thank you so much. Yes, it's called Up Comes Spring, and I think, the last few years, as I'd mentioned, it's just been a sad time of life, just lots of changes. My parents passed away, my son, empty nest, and so, but it made me realize, but also experience that life, things happen in seasons. Things expand and they contract, but as surely as they've contracted, they will expand, and as surely as they've expanded, they will contract. And you just have to keep going. You have to trust the flow, keep marching forward under all circumstances, not be too impressed with the high notes, but then not be so depressed or impressed when you're in a valley. So this song, Up Jump Spring, seemed to catch that for me. That, you know, things happen unexpectedly, and you just have to trust and stay with it, stay in the saddle. So the CD has songs in it that sort of embrace that philosophy. And like there's a fun, you know, pick yourself up. We do that song, and just those times when you talk to yourself when you're down in the valley, and you tell yourself to pick yourself up and go forward. And then we do Something's Coming, which is a song from West Side Story, a wonderful musical. But it represents for me that sense of hope. You're never really sure what it is that's coming, but you know, to stay with that expectancy of good as much as you can. I like to do that myself in my life. Don't always manage to, but I think it's a lovely frame of mind to go through life with, that you expect something good to happen. And and then there's another song that we did called There'll Be Some Changes Made. You know, there are times in any one of our lives when you have to sort of take the bull by the horns and say, come on, self, let's go forward, and we're going to change things up and change the energy. And if you don't like it, just change it. Change your point of view.
Yes. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. So the genre of this album is pretty much, is it jazz?
It is jazz. Maybe 7-8 years ago, I had the great good fortune to meet a wonderful jazz pianist in New York named Ted Firth. And he did all the arrangements on this CD. And Ted, every time he sits down to the piano, he takes flight. And it's, you know, the learning curve. I learn so much from him when I have a chance to work with him. And I think because I was an actress before I was a singer, the lyrical content is very important to me, and they become sort of like short stories or little one-act plays. And Ted is very sensitive to the lyric. He also likes musically to sort of portray in the feel of the song what the lyric is working to get across.
Yes. Yes.
So I just adore him. He's an extraordinary musician and works with so many wonderful people, and I'm lucky to sort of be in the stable with people with whom he works. And we have Nelson Randell, who's just, oh my goodness, what a reed player. I mean, he plays everything, the sax and flute, but he is, I almost went weak in the knees the first time I heard him play. He is a soulful player. So he guests on this, and which we were very lucky to have. He plays on 2 of the numbers. So yeah, you know, I love being in the studio. It's just like, you know, bubble bath and champagne for me. I love being in there, and
that's all I like to.
And I had met, you know, it's funny how things happen. A very dear family friend had died, and so I was at the funeral, and the musical director for the funeral was the great Thomas Dawson, who's the musical director for the Commodores. And so we became friendly, and he happened to mention that he has a studio in his house. And so anyway, and we live, as it turns out, 10 minutes, not even 5 minutes from each other. So we got to record in his home in Colorado. And so, you know, I mean, who would think that out of a funeral comes this wonderfully, incredibly fun project? But
wow.
Yeah.
Talking about change of the energy and change of a season really quickly, how something you know, in a very, you know, negative or sad, you know, can actually turn and transition into something that is birthed something amazing. A lot of times when singers sing, they also write. Do you write any at all? Did you write any of the songs on the album?
No. I did write when I was in my, you know, as a teenager and in my 20s, just terrible songs. Just, oh, woe is me. It was always heartache and storm and rain and suffering, and they're just awful. But I did do it. Of course, I thought they were great at the time, and then somewhere I had kept, some cassettes or something that was said, oh, awful. But it gave me an appreciation for people who write songs well, of which I am not one.
Well, how about this? We are previewing, it's going to be the world premiere of Linda Purl's brand new album, Up Jump Spring. And tell us what this first track that we're about to listen to, tell us what the title is and where the song came from.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I think we should just do the title track. It's Up Jump Spring, and Abby Lincoln. And, oh, John, you're going to have to help me. We're going to have to look it up, who wrote it. I want to say Freddie Hubbard. I think it was Freddie Hubbard tune. And anyway, I heard it. I had heard a wonderful jazz pianist, Onahe Allen Gumbs, play it, and so I just knew this was a song I had to sing the first time I heard it. And it captures what we're talking about, those seasons, and the good can just most unexpectedly burst into your life. So let's do that one.
The world premiere of Up Jump Spring by the one and only the legend, Linda Purl. Let's give a listen.
I was out promenading and high hopes were fading, that dreams ever really come true. When up jumped springtime, I got a look at you. All at once it was heady, your gaze long and steady made sounds of the patter grow dim. And up jumped springtime, and love came on in. Now my heart wants to cheer, life's sweet promise is here, and love is a lovely thing. With sweethearts together like bird and a feather, our love is as free as the wind. And up jumped springtime, and love came on in. Now my heart wants to cheer, life's sweet promise is here, and love is a lovely thing. And we're sweethearts together like bird and the feather, our love is as free as the wind. And up jumped springtime, up jumped springtime. So hello, my
Wow, what an amazing song and what an amazing voice you have, Linda. I know this is going to
Thank
go
you.
far and wide. And I am just so proud that we were able to air it first right here at JBCM Radio and Matters of the Heart. So we just feel extra special right now.
Oh, thank you, John, so much. Really kind. I appreciate it.
You've given us so much of your heart and so much of your time. We just want to say thank you. We want to know, before we let you go, Linda, because we know you have an amazingly crazy schedule to actually attend to, but where can we actually see you live? Is there a website that actually we can find where you're going to be performing?
Yes, thank you so much, John. Well, I have my website. It's LindaPurl.com, and so the dates that I have coming up are on there, and I'm going to be in New York and London, Paris, Berlin coming up over the next 6 weeks. So I'm going to be packing my bags pretty soon and sort of, just premiering the CD in various places. And then I think now for sale, through the site certainly, but also iTunes, Amazon, all the usual suspects for places.
We're going to be logging on to lindapurl.com. That's lindapurl.com. And we're going to make sure that we follow where Linda is and what she's doing out there. And if we want to go on and grab her CD, she said they'll be available online on her website, as well as iTunes and the Amazons and wherever digital music is sold. And you all, trust me, you all, as you have just heard, you definitely want to get Linda Purl's brand new, spanking brand new CD, Up Jumped Spring. And just in case, for the people who actually want to get a tangible piece of Linda Purl, if they want to contact you specifically, is there a way that they can actually contact you through social media, maybe a Twitter or a Facebook?
Oh, sure. Yes, both. Yeah, Twitter and Facebook. Both of those are good. I have 2 pages. I think there's a personal page, and I think I'm sort of full up with friends there. But then there's a professional page also, and then we can communicate through that as well.
You've heard it right here. You can get in contact with the Linda Purl on Facebook on her professional page, and she's also on Twitter. Linda, we just want to say thank you so much for taking time for this beautiful interview right here at JBCM Radio and Matters of the Heart. I am your host, John Redmond. Linda, do you want to say bye or any closing words to the listening audience?
Well, just keep listening to John, because he's a soulful person, and he draws people out, and he's a generous heart and very special friend. And I thank you so much, John, for having me on your show.
Oh, my goodness. The pleasure is totally mine. Thank you so much, Linda. And make sure you all tune in next week for the next episode of Matters of the Heart. I am John Redmond. Have a blessed night.